1 pound of fresh chicken and that much sauce is going to be $7.70. If you add in tax, probably about $8 for 4 servings, so $2 per serving. Welcome back to College Kitchen here on the College Guide. Love making these videos, they're so much fun. Today we're going to be doing a Sriracha rice or Sriracha chicken if you want to add in the chicken. Again, super simple recipe. So we're going to go through real quick what you need so you can prep, and then we'll go ahead and make it together. So the first thing is that you need a microwave or a stove for cooking the chicken. You can cook chicken in the microwave, it's a pretty cool trick. You also need a stove, rice cooker, Instant Pot, something to cook the rice on, but it can just be a burner on a stove with a pot, so pretty easy and accessible, I hope. You need a small bowl for mixing the sauce in, you need a big bowl for mixing everything in when you're done, and you need a knife and a cutting board. Prep time should be about 5 minutes, and cook time should be about 15 minutes. And ingredients-wise, all you need is rice, chicken, onion, Sriracha sauce, soy sauce, and honey. So 6 ingredients, super quick and easy. Let's go ahead and jump into it. And don't forget to stick around to the end of the recipe to hear about the nutrition and dietary information, as well as go through the food math of how much this costs per serving and see how much money you can save by making this. This one's on too. Everything's on. Welcome back to College Kitchen. Today we're going to be doing a recipe that my wife taught me again. Really, she should probably be doing this portion of the channel because most of the recipes I'm going to be sharing are recipes from her. But it's super simple. It's Sriracha rice or Sriracha chicken. Again, if you want to make it vegetarian or vegan, you can leave the chicken out. Pretty simple. Otherwise, we're going to do about a pound of chicken. So, as a rundown, real quick, all you're going to need a pot for rice or some other way to cook rice. If you do it in a rice cooker or an Instant Pot, you're going to need a pan to cook the chicken in if you're going to do the chicken and the diced onion. Or if you want to stir fry some vegetables and add, you can. I'm not doing that today, but you could. And then you're going to need a small bowl like this for making the sauce in, and some measuring cups and a tablespoon measure. Some way to measure the rice and the water. A 1 cup measure works great, but mine's dirty right now. And then a way to measure the water as well. So let's get started. First thing we're going to do is we're going to do the rice because the rice will take the longest because you have to let the water boil and then the rice has to cook. So what we're going to do for this recipe is we're going to do a sort of smaller serving size. We're going to do 2 cups of dry rice, which because when rice cooks, it absorbs some of that water. 2 cups dry is about 4 cups cooked. It basically doubles in volume. So I'm using a 2/3 cup measure. So if I do 3 scoops, that should be 2 cups, assuming I remember how to do math. And we use brown rice most of the time. It's pretty much just as cheap as white rice. It might be like 10 cents more for 2 pounds or something. But it's a little bit better for you. So I would suggest using brown rice. And then for 2 cups of rice, it's usually about a 2-to-1 ratio of water. When we do 2-to-1 ratio, we always have a little bit of water left. So I'm going to do maybe about 3 cups rather than 4 cups of water just to save us from having to strain it at the end, hopefully. And in the end, cooking rice is kind of an inexact science, and so you just have to watch it, and make sure that you don't lose all your water and burn it. Some people do rinse their rice or their quinoa or whatever sort of grain they use. They like swish it around in the water, and then they dump out the water and get fresh water. I'm not that fancy. So all you're going to do is then you stick the pan on the stove, turn it up on high, and let it start to boil. That should probably take, 5 or 10 minutes for it to start boiling. While we're waiting on that, we can start on the chicken and the onions. For this recipe, for 4 cups of rice, I'm going to do about a pound of chicken and a whole small onion. So here you see it's about palm size, like a baseball sized onion. And I'm going to teach you, again, another trick that my wife taught me about how to chop an onion. For those of you who maybe are brand new to cooking, this isn't the trick yet. This is just how you peel an onion. Chop off the end. Once you get to the layers, peel off the outside layers a little easier. And there we go. Just about done. You can just throw all that away. Or you can compost it if you're into composting. We try that sometimes, not always. So you can do that. And then now for my wife's fancy onion cutting trick. You cut it in half right through the base of the bulb, because that leaves it on that one end kind of stuck together still. You can see it holds all the layers of the onion together. Then what you're going to do is you're going to slice it this way, but you're going to have on the cutting board, you're not going to cut it in the midair. You slice it that way, and then you're going to dice it this way. And lastly, you're going to go like this, and it like pre-dices it for you, instead of having to do like cool chefs do, where they, like pivot their knife on the point and like chop it really well. I'm not that skilled or that fancy either, so there's a reason that the only people I can teach how to cook are college students, because I'm not that great of a chef myself. But you see, then you cut it this way, sort of perpendicular to the first set of cuts you made. And then you cut it finally this way, and you see how it's kind of getting like pre-diced. And you can cut the chunks as big as you want. We try and keep them fairly thin. They cook faster, and they'll cook more. But if you like your onions a little more on the fresher side, if you like that flavor rather than cooked caramelized onions, you can. Then you just kind of throw it away. And do the same thing with the other side. Another pro tip for people who are new to cooking: if you use the blade of your knife to push stuff around on the cutting board, it dulls your knife. It means it won't be good for as long. You always want to use the back of your knife to push food around on the cutting board and stuff like that. I don't always remember that, but it's better for your knives if you remember that. That last slice might have kind of missed some of the other cuts, so I'm just going to re-dice it a bit. Okay, so now we have a nice diced onion. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put a little bit of oil, just olive oil, vegetable oil, whatever you want to use. Olive oil tends to taste a little bit better, but it is also a little more expensive. So if you're trying to save money in college, that's kind of the point of these videos. Vegetable oil works just as well. And use one enough to coat the bottom of the pan and let it start heating so that things will cook kind of crispier. And then you just want to get it going on like a low. That was the wrong burner. There we go. So I just stuck that straight up at 4 out of 7. So we're going to turn that rice up so it'll start boiling a little faster maybe. We don't need that bowl right now. So now what we're going to do is we're going to get to the chicken. Important other cooking thing is that raw chicken is something that you want to make sure you try and keep clean. If you've used a dish with raw chicken, don't use it for anything else. That's why I chopped the onion first, because raw chicken has like salmonella and other possible things. So great way to get food poisoning if you don't wipe the counters down after handling raw chicken, if you don't wash your hands, if you just rinse instead of washing your tools. It's really not good, so don't do that. So here, it's about a pound of chicken. Chicken breasts are usually the cheapest. You can buy them frozen for really cheap, or you can buy them fresh for a little bit more expensive. But still, as long as you eat it in moderation, it's pretty reasonably priced. It is really gooey and messy, and I personally avoid messing with raw chicken if I can. I'm lucky that my wife likes to cook because she normally does this, so you get to see me be a little squeamish. So same thing here, you want to dice the chicken. The smaller the pieces, the faster it'll cook, and also, geometry trick, the more surface area you have to put sauce on, it's the more flavorful if it's smaller. You've got more pieces and more surfaces. And also it's just easier to mix. Your bites are more homogeneous. That's something my wife, she likes every bite to be the same. She likes small chocolate chips for that reason. And yeah, so dice your chicken smaller, it'll be more even, cook faster. It's generally just a decent idea. I don't know if you can hear the squelching, but if you can, we can be distressed together. And my wife is in the other room. She said she was going to listen to me do this, so she was probably laughing. And I'm pretty proud of myself. So far, I've done a decent job of keeping the chicken only on the cutting board. You still want to wipe down the counters just to be safe, but at least I didn't like spill a bunch of chicken juice everywhere and like have to wash our bottle of olive oil or anything yet. I would knock on wood, but that would get salmonella on our cabinets. And man, I either have really good timing or it's about to be really unfortunate timing because our rice is starting to boil almost. Bubbles are starting to form, so I need to get this chicken done and into the pan so I can wash my hands and cook the rice, because otherwise it's going to start boiling and I won't have time to finish the rice. And that is the nice thing about using a rice cooker, or you can cook rice in an Instant Pot or something like that, is you just set it and forget it. You know, you don't have to worry about whether you're going to boil all your water off, or you're going to have water left over. Well, that's still a little bit of an issue, but not near as bad. So, we've got the pan with the oil heating. We're going to pick up our cutting board, and we're going to go stick the chicken and onions in it. The important thing, you want to stick your chicken stuff right into the sink. And anything that touches is still going to get sticky. Turn the water on, get the soap, wash my hands, and I'm not going to touch these dishes again until I'm done. And then real out. Forgot to mention you need an implement of some sort, whatever you want to use. There we go. The chicken quieted down a little bit. It's a little bit quieter now. As you can see, our rice is starting to boil. So now what we're going to do is we're going to stick the lid on. We're going to stick the lid on at just a little bit of an angle so that some of the steam can still vent out. You don't want to keep all of it, because otherwise you just have a bunch of hot water in there. So you just stick it a little bit askew like that, as you can see, and then you're able to let the steam out, let it cook. And then you're going to want to set about, I'd say, a 10 to 12 minute timer. That's my check. It usually needs a few more minutes after that. That's a good rule of thumb so you don't forget. And I'm recording some of this video on my phone, so I'm going to use the oven timer. And I did just turn the chicken down a little bit so that it will not cook too fast while we make the sauce and while the rice cooks. And as well, the rice, when you put the lid on, it helps trap the heat in more. So you sometimes want to turn it down a little, otherwise it's going to bubble over. And then you get like these hard water stains with like rice water all over your stove. So you want to just keep an eye on that for a little while, maybe turn it down just a little. Make sure it keeps boiling, but you don't want it to boil over. So now, the last part, we've got the rice going, we've got the chicken, we just need the sriracha. Now, the sriracha sauce is not just sriracha. I'm not more inventive than that, but my wife's recipe is better than that. So what it is, it's 3 ingredients: sriracha, honey, and soy sauce. And we're going to start doing them in about equal amounts, but then you can account for taste. You can add a little more sweetness, add a little more soy sauce, add a little more spice. I am a spice wimp. I will say that over and over in these videos. So I won't go super heavy on the sriracha. My wife might put more sriracha on top of her individual serving if she wants to. But you just need a little dish. It goes pretty far. So like I said, in the recipe, I call out 1/4 of a cup as the amount you can use. And this will last forever as leftovers because, you know, it's soy sauce is like basically like salt water, and honey is honey, which lasts forever. And I don't know what sriracha is, but it probably also lasts forever. I mean, it comes in a squeeze bottle, so that's a pretty good sign that something is not necessarily natural. I'm going to go back quickly. So, there we go. Yeah, 1 tablespoon of sriracha. Oh man, my cat bit my legs. He thinks he wants some sriracha. It's wrong. I'm not sure I want sriracha. But he is a very hungry cat. Not because we don't feed him, he just likes to eat. So we got about 2 tablespoons of sriracha. Poured a little bit all over the counter, so you want to make sure you clean that up for your roommates, or just so that you don't stain your counters. I'm missing this all over the place. One thing about soy sauce is that it is extremely salty. Like, I wasn't kidding when I said it's basically just like salt water. So you do want to maybe go a little light on that. So maybe start with 2 tablespoons of everything. I'll probably add more sriracha and more honey. I won't add more soy sauce. Give your chicken another little stir. Make sure it's still cooking. I think I might have turned it down a little too far. Okay, so we've got 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, 2 tablespoons of sriracha. There we go, 2 tablespoons of honey. And squeezing honey, that's going to give you some good grip strength. In case that's something you're looking for. Rice is starting to boil over, so I'm going to turn it down a little bit. You can also take the lid off, let a bit of the steam off, put it right back on. And apparently I don't know how to use my oven. We don't use the oven timer super often, but it's been going for 4 minutes, so keep an eye on that. I thought this was going to be a smoother cooking adventure, because I thought this setup was going to work better, and I think it is. Let me know if you guys like this setup better. I feel like it's a little smoother, a little better view, a little better lighting, maybe? The lighting isn't great, but yeah, let me know what you think. I'll stir that chicken one more time. Make sure it's getting all well and good and cooked. And that's something also you can put the lid on your chicken as well. That keeps the heat in, kind of steams it as well instead of just like sauteing it or almost kind of like pan frying it a little in oil. Man, I sound like I know how to cook. Listen to all these words, but let that keep going. Turn it up a little because I'm afraid of salmonella, and then give your sauce a taste and see what you think. You taste salt, and then you taste heat, and you have a little bit of sweetness. And you know, the great thing about cooking for one, or cooking for two if it's your spouse, is that they're your cooties, they already have them. So I try and be clean and rinse my hands, but you know, I might end up double dipping a little. So I'm going to start with more honey because it was spicy enough that I was happy with it. It was salty enough I was happy with it. So I'm just going to add more honey, give it a little more volume, mix that in, maybe like another tablespoon's worth, and then I'll see how that goes and maybe mix in a little more sriracha. And this sauce goes pretty far. I know it doesn't look like a whole lot for 4 cups of rice and a pound of chicken, but it gets the job done. And that's the other thing, the less sauce you use on more rice, that also helps water it down. So if you're like me and you can't handle spiciness, just make more rice, and then it's not so spicy. Drink more milk, more ice cream. Yeah, you'll make it through. Still taste the salt. Soy sauce is very strong. So I'm going to add a little more sriracha because that flavor wasn't so strong anymore. And a little more honey, just give a little more volume. Keep stirring the chicken around. You see the onions. I don't know how well you can see on that camera, but you can see the onions getting caramelized. So turn a little translucent. And what 10-point word there. So stop your rice from boiling over. You see I just shifted that lid just like the tiniest bit. And it started to boil over because it was keeping more heat in. So yeah, there's chemistry in cooking. It's pretty cool. That bottle's pretty well dead. Like I said, we'll do a little bit more honey as well. And you know what? Sure, Bradbury, you get to be on camera. Our cat's name is Bradbury, like Ray Bradbury, the author. And he doesn't really like being picked up or touched, but he does like food. Our rice has been going for about 8 minutes. Chicken is looking pretty good. Maybe grab one of these bigger pieces and kind of try and cut it in half with your spatula and see how it looks on the inside. That looks pretty well cooked on the inside, so I'm going to turn the heat back down a little bit to keep it warm. But I think I'm pretty satisfied with it. And like I said, you can stir fry this, so you can add more vegetables or add any vegetables. You know, right now all we have is onion. But if you wanted to add in bell peppers, asparagus, pea pods, I don't know, whatever, broccoli, you like beef and broccoli or whatever, So we do that. Adds more volume, makes it go further. And that's kind of one of the goals, right? Is you want to make your food go further for cheap. I think I'm satisfied with that because that bite didn't taste too spicy. But if I'm enough of a kick at the end, but I know it's going to build up. By the time I've had like 10 bites, I'm going to think it's really spicy. So I'm going to stop there. Polites in maybe did 2.5 to 3 tablespoons of sriracha, maybe 4 tablespoons of honey, and 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. So start with a 1-1-1 ratio, customize how you like. Apparently, I do that a 2-3-4 ratio. I need a mixing bowl to put all this in. Selecting bowls, it's always better to go too big rather than too small, because if you go too small, then you just have to dirty another dish. Go too big, still fits. So the rice has been going for about 10 minutes. I'm going to do a fork and check the rice, see how it's cooking. It's still pretty crunchy. And if you look at it, I don't know how well you can see again on this camera, but there's still quite a bit of liquid in there. So I'm going to leave that lid off a little further. I'm going to turn it up a little bit so that some of that water will boil off. Because you can always strain it at the end, that's fine, or you can leave it in there and like overcook it and it gets all kind of like sloshy creamy, but then you call it risotto and it makes you fancy. Probably, like I said, another, I don't know, 2 or 3 more minutes. Probably now we're at the 12-minute mark. I'm going to take this lid off all the way, actually. Turn the heat up, let it boil off a lot. Rice is another thing that's totally up to your taste. Some people like it really crunchy, some people not so much. Also, instead of just using water, you can use chicken broth if you want, or beef broth to cook it in to give it a little more flavor. Put a little butter in there if you want, salt and pepper, whatever you want. Kind of depends on the dish. Here, because we're putting the sauce on it, you don't really have to add any flavor to the rice itself. But if it's more like a side, then you definitely can make your rice itself more flavorful, even if it's just something like a little bit of butter and salt and pepper. You can go ahead and put the chicken in while that boils off a little more. Might want a hot pad or hot oven mitt. I'm going to admit defeat. I have to strain the rice. If I want to cook it any longer, it'll get too soft. So you just have a strainer or a colander. Though a colander, the holes might be too big. Have your pan of rice. Make sure it's not in the chicken side of the sink. You want to make sure that you're not getting all your rice salmonella-y. And just kind of shift it. Kick around, make sure that water filters out. I call that good. And I guess I'm going to put it back in the pan. I'll just put it right here into this serving bowl. That's pretty clean. And turn off your stove. Probably could have done that earlier, but that's okay. We got our rice and the chicken is under there. And then you don't have to pour all the sauce in right at once. If you're worried about how spicy it's going to get, so you can put in just some. Start stirring it around, see how far it's going to go. Again, I'm a spice wimp, so I always worry about that. We'll just pour it all in. So I did pretty good at guesstimating about how much sauce you need. Normally we end up with like a ton of extra, because we go overboard. Probably because we start with a quarter cup. Give it one more good final mix, and because of the shadows, you can't really see the color on this, but it starts to get a little bit orangey. It's kind of covered in the Sriracha sauce, right? So a little bit sweet, a little bit salty, a little bit spicy. And yeah, that's all there is to it. Take a bite, see if I regret the level of stuff I put in. I think I'll be okay. But there you have it, that's all there is to it. Stick around after this, we're going to go through nutrition and dietary information, as well as the food map, exactly how much this costs. I think it will surprise you how cheap this is, even given how much chicken we put in there. And if you go with frozen chicken rather than fresh, you can put even more in or save even more money. I'd make more room for vegetables and other stir fries, stuff like that. A lot of customization here. It'll make yourself feel fancy if you're in the mood for something special. You can do it that way, or you can make it super simple like we did today. Thanks for cooking with me here on College Kitchen, and we'll see you in the rest of this video. All right, thanks for cooking with me today. So just wanted to go over really quick the nutrition and dietary information. Nutrition-wise, this is great and it's pretty diverse. It's got grains from the fiber from the rice. We use brown rice, like I said in the video, which is a little better for you than just plain white rice. It has a little bit of vegetables from the onion. It has protein from the chicken if you put it in. And then the sweetness, that sugar from the honey, it's sort of a healthier sugar. Honey has other benefits. So overall, the sauce, not necessarily great for you, but it's also not the worst thing in the world for you. The main thing is the soy sauce is super salty, so definitely keep an eye on that. As far as dietary restrictions, it can be made vegetarian or vegan if you don't use the chicken. It's as simple as that. It can be made gluten-free. The one most important thing to look at here is that your soy sauce needs to be gluten-free. Most regular soy sauces you pull off the shelf are not gluten-free, but almost all brands have a gluten-free soy sauce version. So if you do need to be gluten-free, especially for health reasons like celiac or an intolerance that's really going to affect you, make sure and check your soy sauce first. And lastly, it's naturally dairy-free, no dairy in it, so pretty simple. So really quick, lastly, I want to go through the food math with you about how much it costs to make this recipe, and I think you'll be surprised at how cheaply you can make it. The biggest expense, of course, is the chicken. If you get your chicken fresh, then it's about $5 a pound where I live. And if you get it frozen, you can do about $2.50 a pound. So if you just buy, a big frozen bag of those chicken breasts, it can be pretty straightforward. It's about twice as expensive to get fresh. And for the recipe, I would say if you want 4 servings, I would use a pound. So that's $5 of fresh. Or if you can either save money in $2.50, or you can double it and have 2 pounds of chicken if you go the frozen route. The next thing is 2 cups of dry rice, which ends up being 4 cups cooked. So in my mind, a serving is a cup of rice, 4 ounces of chicken, and the sauce. So that's about 60 cents for 2 cups of dry rice. Again, pretty cheap. And then let's look at what goes into the sauce. The honey, if you do a quarter cup of each, then the honey will be 60 cents, the Sriracha sauce will be 50 cents, and the soy sauce will be $1. So the sauce total is about $2.10. So not super expensive, especially because if you do a quarter cup of each, you're going to have way more sauce than you need for 2 cups of dry rice and a pound of chicken. So you can always make more rice, especially if you're trying to do this vegetarian or vegan, so you're not going to put the chicken in it, then you're going to want to make more rice probably to be a little more filling, a more full serving. So you're going to want to make more so the sauce will go a long ways. But in the end, if you do 1 pound of fresh chicken and that much sauce, it's going to be $7.70. If you add in tax, probably about $8 for 4 servings, so $2 per serving. Again, I always compare this to my standard order at Taco Bell, which is a shredded chicken quesarito and a potato loaded griller, which is about $5. So you're coming in at less than half the cost again per serving, which I think is a really great place to be at. Thanks for tuning into this episode of College Kitchen. Let me know what you liked about this video. Let me know if this was a better location to film in, if you could see more, and if I was better that way. And let me know what kinds of recipes you're looking for, whether it's types of food, if specific dietary restrictions I'm not thinking of that you'd like to find a recipe for, or if there's certain limitations on what kind of cooking equipment you have. Let me know. I would love to talk more about that. For example, if you are a microwave-only dorm, then check out this video here for the first episode of College Kitchen for a microwave-only recipe that you can check out. Again, thanks for watching this episode of College Kitchen. We'll see you next time.